Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. Listen, make sure you are subscribed to the All This Math YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it with some other people that you think might benefit from it. All right. I like doing these types of videos because, well, I like doing a lot of these types of math videos, but specifically the standardized test prep videos because these are the ones that has everybody all in an uproar, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I like just breaking the problems down and just showing you how they not really that deep and they not really that difficult if you know how to understand the language of the problem. And this is definitely one of them problems. This one of them problems, a lot of kids in Philly, other parts of Pennsylvania that have to take the Keystone Algebra exam would definitely look at this type of problem and straightforward and just wouldn't even try to do it, right? For a lot of different reasons. One reason is that they just scared of math for real. They just been trained their whole life to be scared of math. They've been bullied by math, right? And it hasn't been taught to them in a way where they're like, oh, no, I could do this. This really ain't that deep. I could do this. So that's one of the main reasons I like and enjoy doing these types of videos on these types of problems so much, right? Because these problems really aren't that difficult once you understand them. All right, so let's look at what we have here. This actually was a multiple choice question, but I didn't want to crowd the board up with the multiple choice answers, right? But they should be under the video in the description, right? The actual multiple choices. All right, so we start out with this equation right here. 8/3 x plus 48.5 is equal to y. That's the equation we start out with. Then the question says, which equation, and it would have been multiple choices here of different equations, which equation can be used to determine the value of x when y equals 28.1? What does that mean, right? Basically, all they saying is this. Solve for x and replace y with 28.1. All right, that's all they're saying. Now, when they say solve for x, they're not saying to actually find the final value, the numerical value of x. They're saying solve for x in the sense that x is going to be equal to a long expression. A long expression. See, that's one thing I want to clear up. Sometimes when you solve for something, you're finding its numerical value. You're saying, okay, x equals 3, x equals -2, x equals 4, x equals 1.5, x equals 10,000, right? That's an example of solving for x. Another way to solve for x is you could find an expression that has another equation in it. X might be equal to 3x plus 4. Or no, x might equal, well, it could be that, but it might more likely be 3y plus 4. X could be equal to another expression, a longer expression, I should say, that includes another variable. All right. So we're trying to set up an equation, right, where we're solving for x, meaning x is all by itself on one side of the equal sign. Right now, x is on the left side of the equal sign, but it's not by itself. It's got the 8/3 coefficient. It's got the plus 48.5. It's not by itself. The y is by itself, right? So this is actually a solution to y. So y is actually equal to 8/3 x plus 48.5. So if somebody wanted to say, well, this is what y is equal to, this is the solution to y, not a numerical value, but in a longer expression, it would be 8/3 x plus 48.5. And then if you knew the numerical value for y, or for x rather, you would just replace x with that, multiply the 8/3 by that number, and then add 48.5, and then you would have the number value of y. But what this question is saying, basically, we're going to solve for x by isolating x all by itself on one side of the equal sign, on the left-hand side. And then we also are going to replace the y with a 28.1. Now, we could replace the y up front as our first step, or we could replace it later. It don't even matter, right? It don't really make a difference. All right. So let's get started because our goal is to isolate x by itself on the left side of the equal sign. All right. We're going to isolate x. All right. So if we isolate x, first I'm going to rewrite the equation. Eight-thirds x plus 48.5 is equal to y, right? I want to isolate the x. So there are two things I need to eliminate. I need to eliminate the 8/3. I need to eliminate the 48.5. It doesn't matter what you eliminate first, but I will say this from experience, eliminating the coefficient first tends to make the problem more messy. So as a habit, I like to eliminate the constant. If there's a constant over there, in this case, 48.5 is a constant. It's a number, right? With no variable attached to it. I like to eliminate that first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite operation to eliminate it. The opposite of adding 48.5 is subtracting 48.5. And we do that on the left side of the equation and the right side of the equation to apply balance, right? Just like in ancient Kemet, Mayat, all of that, right? So we got minus 48.5 on the left, and we also have minus 48.5 on the right. So now these cancel out because 48.5 minus 48.5 is 0, and 0 is nothing. So that's why these cancel out. And now we're left with 8/3 x is equal to y minus 48.5, right? Now, I still need to get rid of this 8/3. How do I get rid of 8/3? Again, do the opposite operation. This is multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplying by 8/3? The opposite of multiplying by 8/3 is dividing by 8/3. Dividing by 8/3. And another way to write that is the keep, change, flip method for multiplying fractions. Well, really for dividing fractions, right? If I'm trying to divide by 8/3, that is equivalent to multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is when I flip the denominator and numerator in terms of their positions. The 3 goes up top and the 8 goes down to the bottom. So the opposite of multiplying by 8/3 is multiplying by 3/8. That's the opposite. That's a rule we have to understand, just in terms of that's a fundamental rule from algebra. Really, not even algebra, from arithmetic. Just understanding the relationship. When we are dividing fractions, what actually ends up happening? One way to divide fractions is to flip the fraction or take the reciprocal of the fraction and multiply by it. So the opposite of multiplying by 8/3 is multiplying by 3/8. It's really dividing by 8/3, but dividing by 8/3, follow the progression. Dividing by 8/3 is equivalent to multiplying by 3/8. So what I can do is this. I can multiply this by 3/8. 8's cancel out, 3's cancel out, leaving me with just x. And then over here, I also multiply by 3/8 over here. Now, but 3/8 gets multiplied by everything over here. Everything over here. So that's why I got to write parentheses. All right. Now, it also said when y equals 28.1. So now instead of replacing the y with 28.1 in the beginning, I decided to replace y with 28.1 later on. So now I'm going to do this. It's going to be x equals 3/8 times the quantity of 28.1 minus 48.5. Now, in this particular problem that was published online, they did not ask for a specific number. They asked for an expression. So this would be the answer. All right. So this is the final answer. X equals 3/8 times the quantity of 28.1 minus 48.5. But the key to this question is understanding the language of math. Which equation, meaning which of the 4 multiple choice answers that you'll see, right, underneath of the video, can be used to determine the value. When you want to determine the value of something, that means set up an equation where that variable is equal to an expression on the other side, right? The value of x. So basically, what is x equal to? X is equal to this. Determine the value of x. What is x equal to? X is equal to this. When y is 28.1. So if y is 28.1, that means we replace y with 28.1. That's what we do. Replace y with 28.1. And that's it. All right. So this is actually like an equivalent expression. So if I was to replace this y with 28.1 and then basically solve for x by eliminating the 8/3 and the 48.5, that's really all that happened. And we end up with this. X equals 3/8 times the quantity 28.1 minus 48.5. All right. If you have any questions or anything you're unclear about, please drop that in the comments. All right. See you on the next video.